What's going on, everybody? We had a little issue on Instagram here, so we're going to try it through Zoom. This is Robby Lochner, man. He's a rock guitarist from Jack Russell's Great White Band. He's got some solo stuff out as well. I think we got him now. What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm back.
I'm back.
I'm back.
So let's just recap a little bit of what we were talking about. We were going in your solo project and a little bit of how we met and stuff like that a couple years ago. Let's talk about your solo stuff quick again. You, 2 albums that you took a few years to release it, right?
Yeah. Yep. The last one I had recorded, I think in 2002 and released it in 2007. And then I, meanwhile, had a lot of more material that I've got sitting around, a lot of it not done, some of it done. And I've released 2 of those singles recently during the COVID time. But I've got a bunch of stuff that's just different. I mean, some stuff that sounds real industrial, and then some stuff that's just, it's all over the map. When I write, I'm just that way. I write stuff that's really eclectic. It's even like if you listen to the He Saw It Coming record with Jack, it's eclectic. That's just kind of my influence. Has always been that way with anybody I work with. You'll listen to the tracks and go, wow, those tracks sound nothing alike. But they still have the common thread going through them, but they're just very different. Keeps me from being bored.
Yeah. Well, it's your own thing. You get to experiment. You get to do that. I do the same thing. I come up with stuff. I'm like, I'm never going to release this stuff. You just want to do it. But yeah, we met 2 years ago opening for Jack, and we were talking about how you guys released an acoustic version of that one record.
Yeah.
And a single we were listening to a little bit here before. Why don't you talk a little about that too before we move on?
So which record off the He Saw It Coming or the Acoustic Bites?
The Acoustic Bites. Yeah.
Okay, so there was 2 singles released, one by the label, which was Save Your Love, and then the other one we did a quarantine video for Fast Road.
Yeah. Yep. That was cool.
Yeah.
Did you record? So you record everything there, you said, in your home studio.
Yes.
Do you mix it too, or do you send it out?
Yes. No, I mixed it.
Do you master it too?
No.
Okay.
I'm not really ready for that. I figure someday I probably will.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I'm just really focused on getting the mix as best as I can and then handing it to somebody else to make sure I'm not missing stuff,
Yeah. Well, I thought everything that I've heard that I didn't know that you mixed it is very clear and is
cool.
very because he comes from the 80s, so obviously you want that sound in there too, and you don't want like too much like I don't know, a modern Godsmack sort of mix, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a nice branch of, you have the digital and you got the analog together. But then you incorporate the acoustics still, which was kind of cool, and then clean electric and all that. So it has that old school tone still.
Yeah, I mean, the idea for me has always been to try and do it like a hybrid, and that's what I told him when we wrote He Saw It Coming. As we were writing, I was going, we should kind of do hybrid. He can't lose his roots entirely, but also you don't really want to be stuck there either, because that's the thing is that if you really love what he did in the past, and that's great, go listen to those records. We could rewrite and rehash that sound, but it didn't really make sense to do. It's like as an artist himself, myself, whatever, we want to grow.
Yeah.
So you kind of take what you've had in the past and you want to grow with that into whatever, whatever you're feeling at that time, I guess is probably the right thing.
Yeah, I think some fans out there with some of the bands, they almost want that same sound all the time. And it's like we're all still growing and progressing, unless sometimes you do get stuck there, I guess, every once in a while.
Yeah.
But true fans will stick with you. I know if I follow a band, I follow the whole catalog.
Yeah.
Good or bad,
Yeah.
That Def Leppard slang or whatever it's called, from the 90s.
Yeah.
But hey, I still bought it. Still got it, So it's
No, that's cool.
You respect who they are and you go from there. That's my view. And I'm old school. I grew up with the tail end of the analog into digital, into completely digital. And so I'm old school where I still buy the CDs. I had the cassette tapes, at one time and all that kind of stuff. So it's if we go into how we record things, maybe I want to talk to a little about that too, is when you record things in your home studio, what's your approach with, do you like just digital, or do you have some rack gear and then use plugins, or
I mean, I do have a little bit of rack gear, but it's pretty much it's in the box. I mean,
in the box?
I have a couple Avalon, the 737s, which have the EQ and outboard compression and stuff.
Hmm.
But for the most part, when I'm tracking, I pretty much bypass it. I don't like being married to anything that I'm putting down just in case,
Okay.
oh, I over compressed it or I did something wrong there I shouldn't have done. I can always send it back out and back in if I need to. And
Yeah.
then I do have some outboard delays, reverbs, and stuff. But typically, right as of right now, I haven't used them. I just haven't. I've been using everything in the box. It's always been too much of a time crunch, and I haven't really figured out how to loop some of the stuff in yet. That'll be my next phase as we go into the next record. I'll probably start experimenting with some of these reverbs and doing a little bit of it outside the box, but it's in the box mixing.
Yeah. I mean, everything you can dream of is in there. They even have the same preamps and stuff, modded. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely still kind of half and half. I think always the I don't know necessarily the board, but definitely like some of the analog gear and stuff like that, the preamps and stuff. You definitely need. Like I talk to a lot of people that do home recordings and they're just starting out and they're like, "Yeah, we just plug into the interface." And I go, "There's a lot more than that."
Yeah.
That's step A. That's the
Right.
end. That's the end result. So even with guitar, I always do a direct box so I can do a dry signal and then whatever you want, afterwards. You do the same thing?
No, I don't. So you're reamping is what you're doing.
Sometimes, or sometimes I just record it direct because I add like a amp sim on top of my amp sound
Okay.
as a little extra, whatever you need.
Yeah, I don't use them. I've got the simulators, but I prefer miking. There's just something about it. I get a better sound when I mic a
Yeah.
real amp than I do a simulator.
You have that air. I think it's physical air contact with the microphone. You get that feeling.
There's certainly that. There's no question about it. And it's just even the tone. I mean, if you get something that's in the box and it's supposed to be like an amp that I've got here, I'll find that it's just better
Yeah.
here. And then I do usually use two microphones on it. So I'll use like a large diaphragm off access and a 57 straight on.
Yep.
And then I have the two just to blend into a mix. It just seems to be better. I've thought about doing the direct as well as a third option, and I have done the reamping before, but it's a little tricky without a reamping box because then it just screams out of control. It's a little more difficult. Then
Yeah.
I can always get a reamping box, but as of now, I just pretty much mic and go. You know,
That's old school.
yeah.
I just shout out to Radial. I got an endorsement with them, and they have
Oh,
some of the best reamp boxes. So
yeah.
if you ever
I've
look
looked
into
at
them, they're really good. It's simple, so
I've
it's
looked at
cool.
their stuff before. I thought about getting that radio, but I haven't done it. I haven't pulled the trigger on it because I just haven't felt the need yet
Yeah,
to do
the
the
direct
reamp.
boxes are really sweet too, and they have like different ones. So you got to be careful what one you get,
Yeah.
which is neat. I like the idea of active DIs versus, because if you have a passive guitar where it's not active, have active pickups, you can use that active DI and it adds like it's almost like a preamp before the preamp,
Huh.
which is kind of cool. But I use ESP guitars which have active already in it, so I
Yeah.
use passive because I've tried it both ways. It's just it's too much. You get too much
Yeah.
noise. So
Huh.
yeah, no, it's cool. I've been interested in that since I was like 15, and I've just been getting into it the past maybe like 5-10 years or so. I've worked with various producers and things, but at a certain point I was like, I got to save some money at some point, and I'm like, I think I can just get into it myself, and it's
Yeah.
so creative. What guitars do you like using for the electrics? What do you use?
For tracking or for live?
Tracking. Yeah.
For tracking, I mean, I just have the array of stuff to choose from. It just depends on what I'm tracking. So I have Les Paul, Telly, Strat, some Ibanez's. It just depends. I mean, really, it's like per track, I'll be listening to it, and I'll have an idea a lot of times. Oh, this one's going to need a Paul, or this one should use a Telly, or whatever. But sometimes, I'll plug in and go, it's not working,
Yeah.
and then I'll just start grabbing different guitars till I get what I'm looking for.
Do you ever run into where you're kind of worried that each song won't sound the same because they use different guitars from song to song?
No, no, it's still going to have that common thread of me playing. So
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of
The
I
amp
hold on to
settings
that.
too could be similar, depending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just, and I like the differences. I like it to be different. I know that the old school way of thinking was, you got to write songs this way and they all got to fit into this box and you can't go outside the box because you'll confuse your listeners. But I'm like, why would it confuse a listener? Listeners listen to more than one band. So why
Yep.
can't they listen to a variety of sounds within a band?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Appreciate it.
agree.
Oh, I like them because it's not, there might be your sound that they don't like, and you got that one sound, but to say there's that song that's in that box, but you have a song that's over in this box and go, oh, I love this one, but I don't like this one.
Yeah.
And there's another box over here that's pretty cool, and this one's okay, and whatever. Then, you know, I think it's just, for me, it's always been that way. I've done that for a long time, though. There was one band in particular I was in the 90s that it sounded uh pretty similar. Most of the stuff sounded pretty similar. It was they call it post pop punk. It had some
Okay.
guitar solos. It was kind of like Blink 182-ish, real
Okay.
catchy,
Yep.
funky kind of songs, but with some guitar solos. But the majority of the music kind of fell into one sound.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you too. Is so starting out, how did you get started in all this? Did you start in like high school bands or anything like that? Or
Oh, it's from the get-go. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, from
yeah.
playing way back. Just really, my older brother started me playing. He's the one who put a guitar in my hands, and as well as a couple of my other brothers and a bunch of neighborhood kids. And it just, for me, it just kept going. So it started off, playing covers, trying to learn songs back in the day when there was no internet to be able to find out how to play anything.
Yeah. Hit the
Learn by
rewind
listening
button
to a
80
record.
times.
Yeah.
Wear out the cassette tapes, that sort of
I
stuff.
was actually doing it on vinyl.
Oh yeah, no, I never got into that.
And then it got into cassette tapes, but then with the cassette, it was kind of like it started wearing out my arm because I would be going rewind, rewind, rewind real fast.
Yep.
And then so when CDs came along, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And then all of a sudden YouTube came along, and then I hated YouTube at first. Now I love it
Yeah.
because it's just easier for me to rewind. I can put the arrow right on the spot I want to rewind, and I just got to keep tapping it if I'm listening to a spot over and over.
Yep. Yep. What do you think about that with all the music being on the internet for basically free? You know?
I mean, it's kind of a double-edged thing because it's, for a lot of the old schoolers, they hate it. For
Yeah.
me, I'm kind of like, well, it's both. I get it because you can't make the money you once did with that, but I think it's great for unknown artists because now, instead of the labels dictating who's going to be famous or who's going to get known, anybody can get known from anywhere in the world. All you have to have is an internet connection and put a song up. Of
Yep.
course, there's so many bands doing it, it makes it difficult.
Yeah.
So, you
But the
know,
sites that they're on aren't necessarily searchable either. Like even though somebody thinks they upload the song to SoundCloud,
yeah,
that's great, but unless you promote that somehow or boost it with paid money that they want you to do, it's going nowhere. So it's up to your social media and your friends and stuff to message and all that stuff. But that goes so far. That's been my pet peeve with it is I don't mind, especially as a new artist, it's like getting your stuff out there and whatever and having some stuff for sale but it's the having to pay for every little, I mean, each post for your full audience that already follows you to see. And it's a money pit, you know?
Is that SoundCloud? Is that how SoundCloud, is that what you're saying? Because
It's
I'm
more,
not really
that's more Facebook and
oh yeah.
Instagram and stuff. But I mean,
Yeah,
SoundCloud's the same thing. I mean, you don't get promoted unless you have a pro account and you buy the extra advertising. You know,
see,
same
yeah,
thing
that's a
with
bummer. That
Reverb.
is, 'cause I know with Facebook, because I do Facebook a lot, it's a drag because I'll put something up and it's like their algorithms are so, they just limit who gets to see it. So it's really a question of you going and, well, you should interact with it. So I interact with everybody. So if I put something up and somebody comments, I'm going to comment because that's just the right thing to do.
Yep.
Or everybody who shares, but that's part of it, is if everybody's sharing it, starts getting seen more and more. But all the people that are your friends, don't see it because the algorithms don't allow it. So, I mean, I do have my friends page, which is maxed out, but I also have an artist page. Now, the artist page, as you probably know, the algorithms are worse. You put something up and hardly anybody sees it.
3%, yeah, or something.
I mean, it's horrible. They want you to pay for everything, which is a drag. It's like, wait a minute, they're all my friends. They should be able to see it. They should be able to go right into their feed and not have to pay for it. I don't. I won't pay for it. I put it up and, you know, I'll just talk with everybody and
Yeah.
ask people to share it and
See,
keep
that's
it
what they
going.
call that advertising nowadays. And I don't view it as advertising, same thing with YouTube. You can pay to through Google, advertise it in some way to show up in ads and all that kind of stuff. And is that really advertising? It's not the old school advertising that I seen, all the bands and stuff do. I know as for me, like playing shows and stuff past couple of years, you can't make flyers anymore. You can't, they used to leave them on cars. They used to give them out, even giving them out, standing there and giving out stuff, unless it's your show. There is not, even at the mall or something like that, there's no soliciting. You can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, no,
Telephone
that's such a
poles,
bummer.
whatever.
You
That's
really
how they got
back
out.
back in the day in Hollywood, that was the thing. You would go look at on the streets, say between. Have you ever been to Hollywood before?
I haven't. No, I've seen
Okay.
pictures and movies and stuff, but
Yeah, so like the whiskey, from the whiskey down to what was once Gazzari's, is I don't know what it is now, but they have whiskey, they have the Roxy, the Rainbow, which is just where people hang out unless they do concerts in the parking lot, and then the end was Gazzari's. That whole area was jam-packed people and flyers everywhere. I mean, flyers on top of flyers. There'd be, a band would walk around and put their flyers up, and another band would walk behind and put their flyers on top of their flyers, and I mean, it's crazy
yeah. The
the
old, I
amount of.
think that was in the Motley Crue movie that came out like last year.
Oh,
They're doing
yeah,
that.
that was pretty common. I've actually got flyers from back in the day. I do that show on Monday nights on Facebook, a streaming live called The Hangout. And I was talking with Joey Allen. He was our guest last Monday, and he's from the band Warrant. And I
Mhm.
pulled out a band magazine. I'm going, hey, check it out, and put it up there and showing them because I had played there. I used to travel from Arizona because I grew up in Tucson. And I was showing them what we played. And I go, and at the same time, I go, you guys were in here. Of course, he wasn't in the band yet, and the band hadn't made it,
Oh,
but they
okay.
were in the same magazine. And then I go, and then when we were there as a keepsake, I went and I started grabbing flyers. And of all the flyers I grabbed, one of them was Poison, who hadn't made it yet, and Warrant. And I go in the flyer, and the Warrant flyer, Janie Lane was in that one. He wasn't in the on the band magazine. He wasn't in the band yet. So it's interesting to see before they had broken. So the
Yeah.
last piece of the puzzle was Joey Allen getting into the band, and then they broke after Joey got in there. But
Yeah.
seeing, I was like, hey, look at your band, and here's Poison. Then I had stacks of other bands that were like, you know, nobody's heard of,
Yeah. Yeah. Bands that didn't quite make it or whatever, or their girlfriends made them quit or whatever.
or who knows what happened. I mean, maybe some of them went on to do stuff. I don't know, but if you look
Yeah.
at the pictures, you can't tell. I mean,
Yeah. Drugs too. I know that was a huge issue, drugs and alcohol and stuff like that.
yep.
It's crazy. Yeah, one of your I think your Facebook friends or something messaged me saying, "Oh, I see you doing a thing with Robbie because he does a hangout on Mondays and stuff." And I go, "I didn't know about it." I go, "I'll check it out sometime." He goes, "Yeah, you should. I don't know. Do people play live on there too, or?"
Well, we had two people who did. But that's trickier. It's usually the younger artist that will do it. So there's more of an up and coming, but this Morgan Miles, and she's done quite a bit
Okay.
actually. But she's always willing to grab her guitar and sing, and she did. She sang while midway through the interview. We do like an hour long thing,
Okay.
and I mean, we're booked out pretty far right now. It's every Monday.
Nice.
We bring on different, like this Monday we have Chips Enough. You know who Enough's Enough is?
No, no.
Band. Chip will be on there. Then we got Magic Marino, who's worked with, I mean, so many people: Barbara Streisand, Phil Collins, Eric Clapton. I met him because we worked together. But he played with Aretha Franklin. I mean, just a lot
Nice.
of people. Then we've got a movie producer, and I forget his name. Then we've got a comedian, and we've got the keyboard player the following week after that from Foreigner. And I mean, we're booked out pretty far. We've had a
It,
lot of pretty cool people. We had Carmine Appice. I don't know if you know who Carmine is.
no.
Drummer. He's from the East Coast, but he's played with Rod Stewart, and he played with
Okay.
it was Beck Bogart Appice, Vanilla Fudge, Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, he's been around. The stories he had to tell were just, everybody's like jaw was on the floor, like, my God, wow. Oh, so he knows the guys in Zeppelin. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Zeppelin opened up for their first American gig. They hired him. They hired Zeppelin, not him. They hired Zeppelin. They actually paid half their guarantee. And was like, wow, these
Wow.
stories. Wow.
Now, is this something that you started with COVID hit, or is this something that's been
Yes.
going on for a long time?
No, it started with COVID. And at
That's
the
kind of like this
time,
thing too. I was like, it was kind of out of boredom, and it was kind of, I figured too, to some of the people that I know, I just ask them and stuff. And because fans, it's hard to deliver new content during this time if you're not really doing much. So
yeah,
and they get to know, you and your music, and they get to check out. I know a lot of people are like, I wouldn't have known,
yep,
and I'm
absolutely.
like, yeah, that's why you do it. And I took radio in college for a semester, so I was always like, I kind of want to get back into that someday. It'd be kind of
That's
cool.
cool. That's what the guy, my co-host, he's a DJ at Jack FM in Texas.
Yeah.
He's the one who kind of started it up. We did a thing, and I was getting him to spin tracks from a kid that I've been producing, and he goes, "Let's do an interview." And I was like, "Oh, great, let's interview him," because he interviewed this girl I produced too, Emily Air.
Hmm.
And then this other kid, Dado, go, "Yeah, let's do the same thing with him." Then he did it on Facebook. I go, "Facebook?" But it went over really well. And we did it on a Monday night. And he called me back the next day, goes, "How about if we do this every Monday? Once you start calling some of your people and stuff." And I go, "Let's do it." It just happened, and it started
Yeah.
kind of blowing up a little bit. I mean, it's got some interest from network. It looks like we might be moving over to, or I don't know if we'll move over or do simultaneously, but is it Twitch or Switch? It's a
Yeah,
gaming
it's Twitch. Yeah.
Twitch.
It's kind of a live thing only. It's pretty cool, but yeah,
It's at
I
live
don't, I don't
only.
know if you can actually put up videos that you save, but I know it's just like
Ah,
a live thing pretty much.
interesting.
But
I know that this girl that I know, she's got a channel there,
mhm.
and she said, "Hey, we could do your show on Monday." So we're like, I'm hoping we can do both and still do the Facebook thing and let it stay up for people to view who don't know of Twitch. I
Yeah.
never heard of it,
If you
but
have two computers and two webcams and your internet connection's good, you could do both
so it would be
things.
two camps. Okay.
I've used Restream. You can do Twitch, you can do Facebook at the same time, but only your personal page unless you pay for the program. And a few other things like Periscope and Twitter. And so when we were everybody tuning out right now, this is a little different. So if you're tuning in, I'll have to upload this later, YouTube and Instagram and all that. But usually we're live on all these different platforms. So
Uh,
this feels more like a radio interview or
right,
something. It's cool.
right.
But not my normal thing. But yeah, it's cool with everybody have on, it's more of a hangout thing. It's, I like interviews, but sometimes they're just, it's just too cut and dry and whatever. So I just roll with it. I like that sort of thing.
That's why our show's called the Hangout Live, because we just hang out and we have
Exactly.
conversations. It's like we call it the non-interview interview. We don't want to really interview anybody,
Yeah.
but you want to just talk.
Yeah.
and get backstory and stuff, because a lot of times people are fans of, whoever it is, and then we'll get stories at them. They go, I didn't know. Even if they've been following them, they go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's what
Yep.
we're looking for, stuff that people never knew.
How long have you been producing artists for?
Let's see, probably, well, I would say about 20 years,
20 years? Okay.
probably early 2000s.
Nice.
Yeah,
Do you track bass and stuff or just guitars for yourself?
I do bass.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Cool.
mean, there's times where, like, I mean, I'll do the bass. If I have somebody else who will do it, I'll let them do it. Even when I produced Emily or Dado, I did a lot of the bass, but I had a student that was a pretty good bass player. I was like, hey, you want to play on these tracks? And he did
Yeah.
a great job. I was like, I'd rather have him have the opportunity than me being in there playing it.
Yeah. Well, I'll
So,
keep you in mind because some of the local artists that I was producing, but I can't have anybody over now. But they're always looking for different people to track stuff, or just it's good to have options open depending on
yeah,
the style and the song.
sure.
Um, Same thing for you too. If you ever need anything tracked for anybody, I track bass and guitar, so I love to just throw something down. It'd be cool.
Cool.
But
Awesome.
so do you? I was gonna ask you, do you ever? What do you think of the baritone guitar? Do you ever use that for your rock stuff?
I haven't. I
Yeah,
don't have one. So I haven't. I probably would if
they're
I
pretty
had one.
sweet. They're pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I've got one. It looks so it's a Jackson body, but it's an ESP guitar,
Huh.
and it's tuned in I think C standard now, but you can tune it to like B or A, and more of the modern rock style. Use it to almost like beef up the current riff that's there.
Yeah.
I was watching a thing on Nickelback and their mixing, and it's like I never imagined you play a riff, and whatever's in that riff, you break it up to three parts. So it's one part, but there's three different things. So maybe there's some fingering and there's some, chugging thing going on. They'll do it all separate and then put it together. I
Mhm.
think that's how they get that sound. Extremely hard for sure. Um, but if you really listen to the records and stuff, now I get it, because I'm like, are they doing something with their gear that is just making it like that? So it's
I
it's
think
all
that's
kind of
kind of
separate.
a Mutt Lang thing. The guy produced Def Leppard.
Yeah,
That's what they used to do. He would have them play like whatever the basic bar chord would be. He would have them playing the notes individually,
yeah,
so
they
breaking it
stick
into
out more.
sections and put it in one.
Yeah,
Uh,
I thought of that. I might try that in my next song, maybe a little bit. It's kind of
that's a
cool.
lot of work though, too. I mean, you got to be playing dead on.
Yeah, phase
Which is,
issues too. I think too. If it's
yeah,
not, you got to do it all at once.
yeah, it's tricky, but
Well,
that's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's always worth experimenting if you've got the time.
yeah.
Just
We got
trying
plenty of
different
time
things.
here. Plenty of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I was feeling like I was. I mean, it's like I'm at home, but boy, I was so busy for so long. Right now, I'm just taking a break since I released that last single because I've
yep.
been going nonstop. I go, okay, it's time for me to just take a break for a little bit. I need a couple weeks to just chill and play guitar, maybe write some songs, not write and record and record and mix and doing this and that. I mean, I still have the show going, and then I
Yeah.
also took on doing it's not that big of a deal, but I'm playing the Monsters of Rock Zeppelin thing with this guy Keith St. John this Sunday. So kind of learning a few Zeppelin songs. I mean, I already knew them, but it's reviewing them because
Yeah.
it's going to stream live. I want to make sure that I know them,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that I'm
Double
comfortable playing.
check your work always.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Well, I appreciate you hanging out here and coming on, and it's been fun. Anytime you release something or whatever, let me know, and maybe I'll
Cool.
pop on one if you'd like. I'd pop on your show one time or something and
Yeah.
do a song or something like that. It'd be kind of fun.
Cool.
Maybe.
That's the thing is we're talking about doing that where we bring on people who aren't up and coming, are up and coming, I should say, not aren't, but aren't as well known
Mhm.
and try and get them exposure. That's really when we were talking about doing the network thing. I talked to the guy who was like the guy, he's a network, whatever, producer.
Yep.
And I go, I really want to bring people who are unknown on instead of known artists as a musical guest, and have a musical guest, because how cool would it be to be part of helping break an artist?
Yeah. That's
I
what they
mean,
used to
that
do.
would be the coolest thing, bringing it's old school, that's the
It
way it used
is.
to be done, and people don't really do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, if there's an opportunity and there's an avenue to do that and bring somebody who's not known to the masses and put them in front of them, how great would that be?
Yeah, even if they're just a musical guest, like you look at all the Tonight shows and stuff. It
Yep.
used to be you get on there and you did pretty well. Now it's like you don't even know who's on there half the time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you'll see somebody. That girl, like Lord something, that won the Grammy. That's where I first seen her, was on one of those shows.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's very old school, but that's where I wanted to get out is, during this time in the music industry before, it wasn't great before. It's definitely better, I think, in the 80s and 90s and stuff, but last 10, 20 years has been, I think, going down. But
Yeah.
things, I think, need to change. They need to view things different. They need the ability to sell records too, maybe without going on tour, something that they could figure out, because I
Yeah.
know like Candlebox was saying, we're not going to release the record's done, but we can't release it till we tour, which makes sense.
That's right. We had
Um,
them. We had them on the Hangout as well. They were one of our guests, Adam and
yep.
Kevin, and that's exactly what they said. They're not. They had the record done. They were going to release it this year, but since they can't tour with it, they didn't release it.
Yeah.
Which I get it. Though we released ours right in the middle of the pandemic, because we thought, you know what, people want content. There is that side of it, and Candlebox would probably sell a lot of records had they just released it.
Hmm.
But I mean, I get where they're coming from. But our option was, we did it and we sold a bunch of them because, it was an opportunity to get something out there, and people are so starved for stuff right now that,
Yeah, they want it.
yeah. So
Don't
there is
blame you.
that part of it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, what do you do,
Yeah. I think the other part is, as far as the business side, some things need to change. I think it needs to be somehow a little bit nicer industry, if that makes sense. I'm not going to say a
Sure.
lot about it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
it's a little stuff like that. I just can't believe. And then artists like, say, myself and some few other, it's all buy-ons and stuff like that, and it's
Yeah.
literally just go broke till you have nothing. And it's like, I do it because I try, everybody's got to make a living, so I'm trying to do it to make a living. And it's like, but if you want something a little higher, do you have to go broke? Do you have to do all these things?
No, it's a
You get
bummer
yelled
because
at at the same time.
I mean, the buying on, I was in a band that did that a number of years ago. It was 2005. We did a tour. We had this band called Dig Jelly, and they got a little record deal. And then we bought, well, the label bought onto the tour. And I'm like, really? Why are you going to do that? What a waste.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was just idiotic. I knew it wasn't going to do anything. Oh, we're going to buy into this tour and get exposure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that money and put it
Key
somewhere
word
better.
right there. Exposure. I always say, I'm like, I rather play for free as long as the expenses are covered and not get paid. And that's the exposure at the very
Right.
least.
Yeah.
The buy-on stuff. I can't believe, like, I heard stories, buy-ons for Bon Jovi and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
does whoever really need the money from Bon Jovi's
No,
camp, from a
they
local band?
they don't need it, and it's kind of sad that they would take it. If anybody's taken that, we've had offers for us. The band's
Yeah.
wanting to buy on. I'm like, buy on to what? I mean, come on, let the
Yeah.
band play. If
Yeah.
if they're gonna play, if it's like a local thing, just but there's bands that have wanted to buy onto a tour, but we don't really tour in that sense. We have very little,
Hmm.
but for the most part, it's just fly dates. So you
Yeah.
can't buy onto that. What are you gonna fly around the country and follow us around? And every promoter is different. But if we were doing a big tour, I just don't. I don't know. I just feel it's a
It,
bummer. You want a
yeah,
band, you want to help a band out. That's not helping them really.
yeah. I
Um,
think it's kind of wrong, whether it's the business side of the big guys pushing that or whoever. But
yeah,
certain things, hopefully someone out there is smart and they'll be yelling at some of these guys to kind of change and tweak little things. But that's my hope, especially this time, because I hope it makes people a little more humble and stuff with
yeah,
certain things. And some people it hasn't. It's made them worse. So
yeah,
whew, we'll see.
yeah.
But thanks, man. I appreciate it, and I'll be sharing this around for you here,
All
and
right, cool.
I'll message you some more on some projects. All right.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it. Everybody tuning in later. Usually it's now, but later. Thank you very much. Follow Robby. He's got songs, his solo songs on iTunes, all those different places, Spotify, and all the Jack Russell stuff. The acoustic stuff's really good. Check that out.
Cool.
All right. See you later, man. I appreciate it.
All right, see you.
Rock on.